Hi, I'm Andrew from TennisWorld.
And I'm his daughter, Cathleen.
Well, here in Calgary, winter's turning into spring.
And a lot is happening in the tennis world.
So, as the hard court season gives way to the spring clay court season, we're going to take a look at the top players in the ATP, and especially the race for number one.
As we get underway with the clay court season, we'll take a look at where the big four players stand after Miami. A quick reminder of how rankings work in terms of points allotted to each tournament and what you get for being a winner, finalist, etc. We'll have a quick reminder of what the big tournaments are, the 250s and 500s, the Masters Thousands, and then the big one, Roland Garros, the French Open. We'll take a look at each of the ATP Big Four players, Murray, Djokovic, Nadal and Federer, and we'll put all that into context of Federer's attempt to get past Pete Sampras' 286 weeks at the top of the ATP as the number one player.
Roger Federer is well out in the front at number one in the rankings. After Miami, Rafael Nadal moved ahead of Andy Murray. But he's still behind Novak Djokovic, the number two player in the world. But, as we all know, clay has been Rafa's kingdom.
The ATP rankings depend on the points that players earn over the previous 52 weeks. And the points that you gain depend on where you finish in a tournament and the relative importance of that tournament. Barring injury, illness or a major life crisis, we can expect to see all the big four players at the major tournament in the clay court season, the French Open at Roland Garros. There are 3 Masters 1000 tournaments played on clay: Monte Carlo, Rome and Madrid. Federer has already said that he doesn't expect to play in Monte Carlo. He's taking a vacation, then retooling his game for clay. And Nadal likely will play all 3, but I wouldn't be shocked, stunned and amazed if he decided to skip Madrid. Novak Djokovic will play in the Serbian Open in Belgrade. Federer has committed to Estoril in Portugal, and Nadal will play at Barcelona, where he's been the winner for the last 5 years. The points players gain from a tournament depend on how well they do and the importance of the tournament. So, for example, at the French Open, if you win the tournament, you get 2,000 points. If you make the final, you get 1,200. But if you win Madrid, you get 1,000 points, and you make the final, you get 600, and so on. So you don't have to keep all the numbers in your head. Just remember that the more important the tournament, the better the player does, the more points it's worth. A little more than a week from now, Nadal, Murray and Djokovic will be in action in Monte Carlo. Then Nadal will go on to Barcelona, and the week after that, Rome, when we should see all of the big four in action. Djokovic should have home advantage, literally, at the Serbian Open in Belgrade, and Federer will be playing for a second time in Estoril. He won there a couple of years ago. The final Masters 1000 tournament is in Madrid, early in May.
At the end of May, the big one, the French Open. Federer won here in 2009, but if Nadal is back on form, he's sure to go in as the favorite. Clay hasn't been kind to Andy Murray. His best result was last year at Monte Carlo.
You're right, Kathleen. Murray's never been the threat on clay that he has been on hard courts. And his recent form on hard courts hasn't been that good either, after he lost to Federer in the Australian Open final earlier this year. So although Murray might make the breakthrough this year, on past form, not too likely.
In the first half of the last clay season, Novak Djokovic looked like the biggest threat to Nadal on clay.
But which Djokovic will show up? The one who pushed Nadal hard in the semi-finals in Hamburg in 2008 and Madrid in 2009? Or the fellow who looked so mopey in the hard court season earlier this year?
With Nadal, you know that the spirit is always willing. But this year, can his body go the distance?
Nadal is like the giant in Greek mythology who gains strength from contact with Mother Earth. He has a lot of points to defend this year, so not much chance to gain ground on Federer until Madrid and, of course, the French Open.
Federer finally won the elusive French Open last year. His record on clay is second only to Nadal's, but each year starts again.
This year, Federer is defending a lot of points at the back end of the clay court season at Madrid and at Roland Garros, so if he doesn't do well at Rome and Estoril, watch out, he could be vulnerable. So here's a reminder of where things stand. Murray's in fourth place, then Nadal, then Djokovic, then Federer. But both Nadal and Djokovic are defending a lot of points at the start of the clay court season, and Federer is defending a lot of points at the back end of the clay court season. So, where might things stand as we go into the French Open towards the end of May? If Federer were not to play until the French Open, or were to go out in the first round of each of the tournaments he played, he'd fall to about 9,300 points. But none of the other players could catch him. Even if each of them won all the tournaments that they entered, the highest ranked player would be Novak Djokovic, who could get as high as 9,070 points. Murray could get a little bit above 8,000 points. Nadal is defending a lot of points all the way through to Madrid and can only gain 400 points, so none of them can catch Federer before Roland Garros.
Okay, Dad, time to sum it up.
To sum up, 285 weeks is in the bag for Federer, but 286 isn't. He can be caught by the end of the French Open. I think the most likely player is Nadal, but it could be Djokovic, even Mario Del Potro if they have a lights-out clay court season. So we won't know until the final ball is played at Roland Garros whether Federer is going to break Pete Sampras' record this year or if he's going to be caught at the tape.
Thanks.